Hey everybody, welcome to your unpaid therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of your unpaid therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valery Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know.
I am your host, Alikona. She's away. Bradford.
This is your unpaid therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. Hello everybody, welcome to your unpaid therapist. It's a brand new year and we're excited because we got lots to talk about. You know who I am.
Feliz Año Nuevo. Happy New Year 2024. We're doing this. Isn't this crazy?
It is. This is like what, our second or third episode of the year. So it's still feeling really fresh, you guys.
It does. It really does. I feel like, honestly, I don't think it's until like March that I feel like I write the correct date.
Right? That's so okay, so you guys,
but let's get into it, you guys. I want to tell you, so I get this voice text from Alikona. You know, we always share like different ideas. We're talking about like you know, what are the things that are coming up in our lives currently, and it's like a 5-minute voice text talking about the power of the pee, talking about masturbation and dildos. And like, I'm with my parents listening to this voice text. And I was like, all right, we're doing this.
Oops.
So, no, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So we are getting into it. Give it to us, Alikona. What is this?
All
What
right, I'll give you a little smidgy of a synopsis before we get into our Never Have I Evers. But basically, I just wanted to talk about really like owning the power of the pee, because a lot of times us as women, we're shamed and we're taught to not really enjoy our own pleasure and our intuition, because it all comes from the same place, you guys. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then about how society has really conditioned us to just, you know, be pretty. What is it like? Little girls are seen, not heard, and everything from like cartoons to music to whatever really subconsciously conditions both men and women to think of us as, you know, accepting things that we shouldn't, because we shouldn't speak up. There's a lot. But let's Never Have I Ever, and then we can go.
So we'll get into more of the power of the pee after this. Yes. Never Have I Ever.
Yes. So do you want to go first?
So because we're in separate locations, y'all, obviously. So I'm gonna pick a number. 2.
Number 2. Okay, I have the list, so I'm gonna take a little look-see. Never has Val ever been in a fist fight?
No. Okay, you guys, I've never been in a fist fight, but I do have a funny story about the physical altercation. I have my my teeth in, as I call it, in
I think that too. Oh my
god. Okay, so this was my bachelorette way back in the day in Florida, because I had 2. I had an LA one and I had a Florida one. And so we were in my Florida one, you know, did all the fun stuff, whatever. We're in this club. It was like we were just about to leave and the Dougie song came on. And obviously I'm drunk. I don't have shoes on. I'm having a good time. I'm with my cousins and my friends, right? Let me see, whatever. And out of nowhere, I see my cousin Carla, Carla's 6 foot tall. She is like running towards the center of the dance floor. And I'm like, what? And of course, you know, everything is in slow motion when you're drunk. And then she's like going towards the dance floor. And I don't even remember who it was, but somebody else is grabbing me like back. And I'm like, what is going on? So my other cousin, Carla's sister, she ended up getting punched in the face.
Oh.
And by another girl. And it wasn't the other girl was trying to hit another girl. Well, my cousin just happened to be wrong place, wrong time. And my cousin got hit. So of course, you know, my Carla sees that and she's like, oh, I'm about to hit somebody. And then I'm like, my cousins are getting hit. So I'm like, you know, about to go in there and they're like, you're getting married tomorrow.
Good point.
And I'm like, no. So I have never been hit, but I have been in a situation where my family was hit. And sure enough, like next day wedding, my cousin has like a bruised up face. And they had to, you know, fix it with makeup. She was fine, but we didn't know at the time. She was the only one who didn't drink because she was pregnant.
Oh.
So a month, 2 later, we find out and we're just like, that could have just gone so horribly wrong, you know? but everybody's okay. Baby was born, and
Yay,
yeah,
all is
that
good.
was that.
All is good. I've never been in a
All
fist
is
fight.
good.
But there was one time where I was in an acting class. Now, mind you, I come from, and I don't mean to be like, oh, prestigious or anything, but I did study Meisner. It's not Italian. But anyway, studied Meisner, and when you're in the
She did it.
you're in the moment, you do things, and like our teacher was cool. I mean, he hated when it would happen. You'd accidentally hit a wall and punch a hole in the wall, but you're in the moment, so he'd congratulate you. So I took a different class with a totally different scene partner who was not Meisner, and I was in the moment. And the stage direction said, slap the guy because you're mad at him. So I'm in the heat of the moment. He says something, and I'm like, whack. And he was not expecting that because he comes from the school of you discuss it first. But I'm like, I'm in the moment. He was so mad, like mad.
Yeah.
And he told the teacher, he filed a
I would've been
complaint. And I
mad.
was like, bruh, you're an actor.
Okay, that's a little
Calm down.
much. Right, and you're a dude, and yes, he deserved. I understand. I would have been mad too. So that's valid. But doing all the extra stuff, it's like he could have obviously just had that conversation
Right.
with you and be like, "What the f? Like, you don't do that." Blah blah blah. The
Yes.
end.
Anyway.
Ay. Okay,
Cool.
so your turn.
All right. Never
girl.
have I ever. I'm gonna pick number 6. See, that way I'm not cheating, okay?
Remember.
All right, number 6 is never have I ever made a complete fool of myself at an audition, like an epic fail.
At an audition.
I mean, look, I did this one audition. I was a dancer, and my friend talked me into auditioning for Mamma Mia way back in the day in Vegas. Mamma Mia. And he was like, it's ensemble. You're dancing. You might have to like sing, but ain't nobody going to hear you because you're like ensemble. I was like, okay, good. Because, I can't sing. So I went and they're like, prepare a song or whatever. So I picked Britney Spears. I love rock and roll because I'm like, who can't sing? Great, we'll do this. So I do the dance audition and I could see the judges in front of me, think America's Got Talent or whatever. And they're like smiling and like, yes, please stay. And I'm like, score, So, because there were a lot of contemporary dancers and I had a little edge, because I was hip hop. So then the second part of the audition happens, like an hour later, I have to walk into a room by myself to sing. And I'm like, it's fine. It's ensemble. And then I walk in, there's a guy at a piano. They're like, so do you have sheet music? I said, I'm sorry, who? What? No? I was like, but I have a DVD. I burned a DVD of Britney Spears. They were like, no. How about you sing Happy Birthday? Oh, okay. So for y'all who don't know, apparently Happy Birthday is technically one of the hardest songs to sing. Like if you soulfully sing it. But my ass, okay, first of all, the judges are like this. Like ready, smiling. Happy birthday to you. Their faces were like, they dropped. They look so mad.
God.
Like, I don't even know if I finished the song. They were like, thank you. And I remember just walking out being like, okay. Damn.
Obviously I wasn't there and I'm like, I feel embarrassed right now for you. Because I know how those auditions are. And like, I know the look that you're saying that their faces look like, I just, and I understand that energy. So I'm like, oh, how embarrassing.
What about you? I think failed an audition.
Hell yeah. Man, a couple, nothing like, just frustration over. I remember having an audition, and everybody who knows me, I'm super emotional. I can cry on a dime when it's like thinking about family or a puppy or like a little baby. I don't know. And so I had an audition about with a scene of that my mother passed away, and I could not even get glassy eyed. And it was things like that where you're just like, what the hell? Like, I just was so disconnected. I know, don't blink, don't blink. So disconnected, and I couldn't connect to the moment. And that was like right when I moved to LA. So auditioning, it was like a little itty bitty space, and like casting director and the readers like all up like in it right there. So I wasn't used to that kind of intimacy in an audition. So that was rough. Another one where I just blanked on the lines, just like, and then that one was the more embarrassing because it was one of those rooms. Sometimes you guys, when we go to these auditions, well, back in the day before COVID, we would go and there's a lobby, but like this wasn't really so much of a lobby. It was just like outside the door. So you could hear everything that was going on in the room of, you know, the person who's auditioning before you, which is just awful. Yeah. Like I would have to now in that kind of situation, I would like leave the room or go somewhere else. But it's incredibly distracting. So it was one of those, and I'd like blank. And so as soon as you blank and you know you lost it, you know everybody could hear the fact that you stopped talking and you're supposed to still be talking. So then now in your head, and now you're embarrassed, but then now you're trying to get back to it, and it's
dude, I don't know if I ever told you this. I had this audition. I'm pretty sure I did. And not to carry this never have I ever out. I auditioned for Hit the Floor for a small part, which is a show that Valerie was in. I got same thing, man. I got brought all the way to the top of like the Viacom, and I thought it was going to be an audition room. It was an office, and they were like this close to me. And it was so confusing because I don't want to name any names, but Valerie's character was married to a man who has the same name of her ex-husband, and at the time you were going through a divorce. And so I
that's right,
started talking about the shit that you and your ex were going through, and because I'd be like, no, Raquel, la la la, we'll call him Tom because I don't want to say the name, but it's like, no, Raquel, Tom said blah blah blah, and I was like, no, that's what the real Tom said, shit. And so I'd have to like restart, and I did it twice. And I tried to explain to the
note to self.
Yeah, I tried to explain to the
cast. Be careful what you tell Alikona.
Sure. I was like, I was visualizing Valerie, who's Raquel, but never mind. And I walked out of that place. Mind you, I had just sprained my ankle a couple of days before that, but I didn't want them to know because I didn't want to not get hired because I can't walk right. So the entire time, and the lady walked me all the way down out the lobby. And I faked the funk and walked like normal. But the entire time, it was like shattering pain in my ankle. Like, yeah, thank you. And I had an epic fail. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, didn't book that one. So they did call me. It was 2 weeks later. But at that point, I was like crying and embarrassed because I knew the showrunner. And I was like, that was so bad. Anyways.
Oh my gosh, I hate it. I love it. Awesome. So let's get to it.
Yes.
And for anybody, so I'm thinking that like somebody like my mom is listening to the podcast or watching it on YouTube or wherever, and they do not know what the power of the P stands for. What does that mean?
Well,
or someone young who,
ladies,
we're about to teach.
Let me tell you, I learned this phrase when I was 18, and my coworker, I think, saw me, and I was, gaga over some really cute boy that came to visit me, and she was like, "Girl, you need to learn the power of the P." And I was like, what's that? She pointed to her down below. I hate that word, the P word, but I think I like the power of the P. So for those of you who don't call it the P word.
Vagina. Let's get scientific. It's
the vulva, the vagina, your chubby bunny, your hoo-hoo, cooter, your yoni, and whatever else you want to nickname it. But
there you go.
I wanted to talk about this today because first of all, I'll start why I want to talk about this. I read 3 different biographies: Constance Wu, Anna Faris, and Anna Kendrick. And I'm going into the books like, oh, this is fun. They start talking about their relationships with guys. And I'm like, oh my God. Like all things that I've done in my life, which is basically you accept behavior that is really not acceptable because you just want the guy to like you. And I was like, why? These women were all raised in different regions of the United States. So it's not like a regional thing. It's a female thing, and then going back to like cartoons and Gina Davis's organization has done all sorts of studies of how like when we're little, boys and girls are subconsciously programmed that, little girls are quiet, pretty girls are seen, not heard. And so we don't speak up. And it includes just like the stuff that we want from men or from other people. So really harnessing the power of the P and just like not being ashamed of that area of our body and being okay with even like pleasure, right? Like saying what you want, knowing what you want, being taught to explore that area. Cause like with boys, they talk about masturbation. Like, I yanked one off, and us girls, that's like embarrassing. You don't do that. No, you don't touch yourself, So and the thing is, but Val, like you have such awesome standards. And I know that you said that it's something that you grew into, but I've read in books.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I know I'm going on a tangent, but like I've read in books that, and I cried when I read this too, by the way, guys. Girls who tend to accept poor behavior from boys were not taught by their father to love and respect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, that's me. So I guess what is your experience in terms of that? And I don't know, because I know you haven't had like a gajillion relationships, but the ones that I've seen you in and that you've dated, like you were quick to be like, nope, I don't like that. Is that something like your dad taught you, or like where did you get that confidence?
So the confidence definitely wasn't there in high school, middle school, any school at all. Not barely even in college. But I did grow up with a dad definitely reminding me kind of my worth. It's weird though, because it was like kind of reminding me of my worth, but also being really overprotective, which I feel like had the overprotectiveness been a little bit less, I would have stepped into the power of myself and that confidence sooner. Because it wasn't until I'd say after my divorce that I started just really to be honest, just learning about myself, and knowing what was important to me, and being forced to be alone and step out on my 2 feet and be scared and be vulnerable and be lonely. Because as you know, Alikona, and if anybody's new to the podcast, so I married my high school sweetheart. So, from high school, I was in a relationship through my 20s, and then it ended in my late 20s. So there wasn't a lot of self-discovery because, you're attached to this person, or you're a couple, right? So I lost a lot, I feel like, of learning about myself that I could have in my 20s. I feel like most people do. And then that most women explore or date or, sleep around or whatever. And I don't say sleep around in a negative connotation. I meant sleep around and just like,
let's talk about that though. Hold on. Let's talk about that. Cause you and I had this conversation, and again, Constance Wu mentioned it in her book. It's like, we're taught as ladies to keep the number low. You know what I mean? Like, let's not be able to count over one hand. Cause if so, but I'm like, okay, realistically, it's not like it's going to stretch out and be like, oh, you slept with too many dudes.
But what's funny is though, I've heard, I've heard men talk about that though. Like, not like a lot of men, but like I have had a conversation about like, like some people, I guess, are like, that's a thing.
Like my one friend Danielle,
but I don't know.
Wait, hold on. I gotta say, my one friend Danielle, who I call Danielle, I asked him, right? Because I was like, okay, I know what it feels like to be a girl, but I don't know what it feels like to be a boy. And boys do seem to be like real sex crazy, and they just want to like stick it in any orifice they could. You have legs, great, let's do it. So, like, what does it feel like to be a boy? Do you know what I mean? Like, we had that kind of relationship. I'm like, I don't know. What does it feel like to penetrate a woman? And he was like, here's the thing. Some women, it's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. And I went, oh.
What?
Like, whew. And I was like, okay, but here's the thing. Like, so, maybe she just needs to do Kegels.
That's a visual.
That is a visual. That's a visual for even for our audio people. But and I also read, get this, y'all. I also read, here's something juicy, that I don't want to be like stereotypical, but you sometimes, like Asian women are very small women, right? So their yoni, their bunny, their fortune cookie is in a like evolutionary way, okay, meant to be with another Asian dude. Asian dudes are not all known to be well enhanced, though some of you may be, but they tend to not be.
Well, because just the culture and in general, everybody's very small and petite.
Exactly. However, if you look at somebody who's African American, who's 6'4", generally the body parts all are proportioned.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Proportioned. So when you think about his hot dog or pickle or whatever you want to call it, it's probably proportioned to his 6'4" self. And then I'd laugh. Look, I'm the stereotype, right? Okay, because like I'm half Japanese and my boyfriend is he's mixed. So, black and white. And I'm like, typical, like a black dude with an Asian girl. And I was like, oh, wait. Is that common? Because little fortune cookie, very giant, like, you know what I mean? Like, does it feel better for I'll let your imagination run wild.
But we will have to have a guy on here you're Danielle.
Yeah.
Danielle.
And he's like 6'4" too. He's a big dude. I should have to ask him.
So he would probably say yes.
Yeah.
Considering the hot dog in the hallway.
I'm like, who are you dating?
Analogy.
Yeah. So I don't know. We don't.
Yeah. So to go back to my story.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. Cut you off there. Go ahead with your story.
Oh, no. So backing up. Yeah. Going, rewinding. So of course, that's the age that usually most humans explore and find themselves and all that. So I didn't get that. But I feel like after the divorce and after my last relationship I just found I knew what I wanted more. And I wasn't trying to waste my time. So I remember you specifically, and another friend also, we were just talking about this, my friend Corinne, and she was like, I just, there was a time that she was just like, okay, Val, like, kind of give people more chances. Cause I was really quick in being in my dating era, be like, I don't know, I'm good. Maybe. And everybody, even my mom, I feel like my mom was like, okay, but everybody has their thing. I'm like, yeah, but I know, after a certain age, I think, and I think this is what we differ on. Like, I think, what you can stand with or what you're worth. And you're like, this is, I could see a future with this, or this little habit will annoy the F out of me in a year. So let alone a lifetime.
Yeah.
Or something that was really interesting is love languages and knowing what I needed in a person. And this wasn't anything that against the other person, but it was just finding somebody who gave me what I needed naturally, and who I gave what they needed naturally. So when that wasn't clicking, I was quick to be like,
wow,
I'm out.
Yeah. Dude, I want to talk about that.
So I did experience.
I want to talk,
even though I didn't have much of it.
Yeah. I just want to talk about the fact that, okay, because I mentioned the Gina Davis organization. If you guys have not seen this documentary, yes. I forget what it's called, but I was like, because she talked about film and cartoons and how there's more, we know as actresses, but there's more roles for men than there are women. And when you watch a rom-com, if you have not paid attention, it's the one lead woman, maybe a best friend. Everybody else in the cast is a man. And so, and I want you to talk about your book, Val, but like with cartoon characters, the whole point is, and I wanted to get back into how do we harness the power of the P, but I want to talk about like where this loss of power came from, which is, as kids, if you look at the cartoons from our era, right? I don't know, I'm not a teenager now, so I hope it's changed, but back in the day, most of the characters are men. Even Finding Nemo, Dory was a girl, but like almost everybody else was a dude. And even in the princess movies, you've got Ariel, but then Sebastian and Flounder and King Triton and the mains, Eric, Scuttle, they're all men. The Smurfs, there was Smurfette, one girl in a whole community of boys. So on a subconscious level, both girls and boys are learning that the male voice is more important than the female voice.
Yeah.
And so it's like little things like that add up as you grow up. And there's always the movies and even listening to songs. I was listening to songs and it's like trying to get the boy to like you. And that was my objective always.
Mhm.
Like, how can I get so-and-so to like me and see how great I am and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nah,
Yeah.
if he can't see how great you are,
Nah.
then he ain't worth your time. But I'm still putting that to
Yeah.
practice, right? Like, cause it's like, you can know that, but can you apply it?
And I think that comes through time. I think, to be honest, at the very core of that is just self-worth and self-confidence and really loving yourself. Because I definitely had that growing up. I mean, even still, like when you and I talk all the
Mhm.
time about our personal insecurities, and I have an amazing man who, I mean, tells me all the time everything that any woman would want to hear, and I still have moments of like, but
Yeah.
and he knows that, but and it's like, what do you, where, why, where's that coming from? And I mean, that's a whole other episode, but
Mhm.
that self-confidence and that self-love is everything, and it is difficult when growing up, either father figures weren't in the picture, or parental, and weren't giving you those verbals of you're everything, you're perfect, except you love yourself, all the, teaching. And then of course the Disney princess movies.
Which I want to talk about, because I
And
know
it's interesting.
it's a thing for you. So yeah.
It really wasn't until I didn't ever think about it until now. I am living with David's daughter, and she's 5. And then even with, our mutual friend Keston, they have a young girl of 5, and listening to parents speak about the things that they're allowing their children to watch, I was like, oh, okay. And this whole Disney princess thing kind of came up, and I was like, I get that.
Wait, hold on, back it up.
So, the Moanas.
I would say back it up. I just want to preface that with, those parents do not allow their children to watch the Disney princess movies.
Correct. Right. Some of those parents. And so, and even just talking about cartoons like Bluey, or the ones that are very popular, Peppa the Pig, and why some certain parents, I don't want to call anybody out, are like, yay to this one, no to that one. And a lot of it had to do with the representation of the female characters in them, and or the disrespect, or how these characters are talking to their parents, which, after kind of being told about it, and hearing their point of view, I'm like, damn, they're right. This is crazy. I personally, I understand what people are saying, and obviously, if we can have like Wish is the new movie, and the main character's Asha, strong female character, lots of women in the cartoon, in the film, super adorable. Moana, whatever. We can go on, and I like all those movies, but I do believe that trying to protect your kids from all these things, you think you're like protecting them, can also backfire as well. Like I feel like exposing them to real life, but teaching them like that this is fiction and this is make believe, and giving them a taste of both. I don't think it has to be like, they can never watch this because da da da. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion. How do you feel about that? Like, if you had kids? With the Disney princess
That's
thing.
tough, right? Because I grew up.
Would you let them watch?
I've grown up. I think I'd have to find a nice balance, and we'd have to have a conversation, right? Because
that's right.
I went to this event that Reese Witherspoon held. And if you guys aren't familiar, like, Reese Witherspoon has been making so many changes in the industry, whether it's having female-oriented characters that are strong and powerful, making sure that behind the scenes there's women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just equality. And so one of the things she said on stage was, yeah, she's like a rom-com queen, right? And I used to love those movies. I still do. And she's like, but they're not realistic. Yeah. She's like, no one is coming to rescue you. We're taught to sit around and wait for somebody to come rescue you, wait for a man. No, do that shit yourself, and that's why she wants those type of characters. And so one of my favorite movies growing up was The Little Mermaid. Like, I love mermaids. I love the ocean. I want to be a mermaid. And then you think about the storyline, and you're like, hold on, though. Like, this bitch gave up her voice. Again, what we talking about, having a strong female opinion and a voice. Give up your voice for a dude you literally have never had a conversation with, but you found attractive. Okay, because we're so like, oh, he's so hot. He's so hot.
Cute.
Take my voice. I'm going to make him fall in love with me with my physical appearance and my cuteness.
Right, because she don't even have a fin anymore.
Yeah.
Now she has legs.
I know. And like, let me be cute and quiet and get him to fall in love with me is basically the premise of the story. And so, yes, for entertainment value, it's fun. But again, being very aware of like the content that you're feeding your young kids.
The songs are pretty good.
Wow, 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 wow. That's my skull impression. Anyway, the point is like just I think being aware and making sure there's a nice balance in the things that they're watching. And and again, having that conversation. So, and I think as an adults, because we have that programming, it's having that conversation with ourselves. Because like we've talked about this, like you can say a mantra, you can want a thing, but if your subconscious is running on autopilot, it sort of like guides you like a magnet to like the shit dude. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
You know? So I think it's, I would say just bringing it back to like harnessing the power of the P, right? And I did this exercise where it was releasing traumas because these are considered like micro traumas, if you will. Like every time you're told to be quiet, every time you're like accepting behavior from a dude or whatever the case may be, you hold it in different areas of your body. And your throat is connected to your whatever you what do you call it, Val? What do you call yours?
Your vagina?
That's what you call it?
I don't know. I don't really talk about it. So I call it, if I am, I guess I'm going to call it what it is.
The point being, we don't talk about it. Okay.
Well, I mean, if I did, I
mean, how many conversations do men have where they talk about wanking off to like, I don't know, Christy Brinkley or whoever's hot right now. I'm all Britney's like all these people from like 20 years ago. Doesn't matter. The point is, when's the last time your girlfriend called you?
We're aging ourselves.
Huh?
I said we're aging ourselves.
I was gonna say, when's the last time you called your girlfriend and was like, girl, I watched me this Jesse Williams movie last night. He's so fine. I had to rub one out. We don't have conversations like that. You know?
That's so true. That is so true. I think I'd be like, what?
You know, that's the point. Is like there's so much shame around our sexuality. You know, like we don't.
And I mean that's cultural and obviously it's society, but there's a cultural aspect to that too. And I wanted to say, you know, and this might be a very unpopular opinion right now, especially in this like woman power and everything that you're talking about, the power of the P or whatever. But I know personally, there's a balance when it comes to this new age thinking and also the traditional thinking and old values of just I am a fan of the man sweeping me off my feet, and I do fantasize about all these romantical things, even though that's not a word.
It is in my world.
So, and it is, right? And so when it comes to relationships, it's a funny little balance because I am all Miss Independent and I can do it for myself and I, you know, make my money and I have my business and, you know, I don't need you kind of thing. But I sit very confidently in my feminine and I love the gushy wushy texts and I love like, you know, the traditional, some of the general traditional values and from back in the day with like, you know, the man planning the dates and the man doing this and da 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 da. Even though, as you know, Alikona, I do cutesy things all the time and I love surprises and I do that stuff and I can. And I don't know if it's unpopular now. It seems like it is, but I really kind of like some of those old school values.
Me too. And but that's not that's actually owning the power of the P, not owning it. It's having value on yourself and what you want and what you deserve, but also if we do take it back down to that region, respecting that as well. You give it out if you want to, but you withhold if you want to too, you know, and knowing that it does provide so much pleasure to so appreciate that I'm giving it to you, you know?
Right.
But I think that's great. And that's, again, that's something that I'm learning in terms of sitting in my feminine, because I do lean in my masculine a lot. And I am, because I'm such a go-getter in life, that I apply that to relationships too. And I'm like, oh, well, he's cute, so why wouldn't I just go talk to him? Or why wouldn't I just, but then that's how that energy gets channeled into trying to get so-and-so to like me. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I remember when we were talking about this in a previous episode with David, and David was like, and even I said that too. Like, I think, and I love that about you. I think you making that initial hello or anything, whatever, the initiation coming from the woman, I don't, or the feminine energy, I don't think that's a bad or wrong. I think putting it out there, I think that's awesome, and I think that's strong, and I think it's bold, and it's very you. Then I just feel like after that is put out there, then just stepping back and letting them come to you, and then it's like you put it out there, they got the invite. Are they coming to the party?
And be okay if they don't come to the party.
And how are they showing up?
Yeah.
And exactly. And if they don't, cool, because like the DJ is the shit and the vegan spread is bomb, and I'm you know what I mean? Like I didn't really need you at the party. I just thought it'd be cool to get to know you there.
Or like, okay, how about this? And again, I think because your experience has been so different from mine, because you were married at a young age, but this is something that, again, both the Anna and Anna Faris and Anna Kendrick had talked about, is they'd both gotten themselves into situations where they really liked a guy and the guy was not ready to be in a relationship. And they're like, oh, okay. And how many girls do this where it's like, well, he's not ready yet because I've done it. He's really focused on his career, or he just got out of a really long relationship. So you rationalize, I get that. Like, you're not ready to commit because you just got out of a relationship, but then you still hang around because they still want to date you. And then they still want to sleep with you. You know what I mean? And you're just hoping that eventually that person will start to like you. And I'm like,
yeah.
But again, a lot of women
think
do that.
Again, that goes into a lot. That's a self-worth thing. That's a in a book that I read, actually, my cousin, I'm not going to say which one it is because she'll kill me. And she'd be so mad I'm putting it out there. But you know what? If you're listening to the podcast and you had these kind of situations, and you've been that Anna, you've been that Alikona, you've been that Val, that young Val. This book is called Why Men Love Bitches. And it talks about being the doormat.
Hi.
You. I was like, well, who's there?
Hello. Would you like to meet one? I'm right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't talk about bitch in this sense of like, entitled, mean, blah, blah, blah. The reference to bitch is what a lot of society would say a bitch is, or a man is somebody who is, strong, has opinions, and isn't afraid to voice them and knows their worth. And so the book there's so many little gems. She gave it to me, in my 20s at some point. But I remember reading it and like getting my highlighter and be like, this applies, docket your page. But it was so helpful. And I think I'm like, that book really did help me kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah,
But okay, see, but that's the thing I'm talking about, as far as like society being like, good girls are quiet, or pretty girls are seen, not heard. And so we don't speak up our mind. And then when you do, you're a bitch. And it's like, what the fuck? Because like a dude will buck up to a dude real fast, and they have no problem competing with each other. They have no problem being like, bruh, this is how I feel. And they'll like match each other until they get to an agreement, and then it's cool. Whereas if a girl got into that same conversation with the dude, he'd be like, what, bitch?
She's difficult. She's this. Yeah, I mean, y'all know I'm a J-Lo fan. And how many times have I heard people talk about like how much they don't like J-Lo and she wants these colored M&Ms or whatever BS that's out there about her. And who knows? And maybe it's true. People have bad days. Maybe she was disrespectful to somebody, and I don't want to devalue somebody's experience. But also, she is a go-getter, and she's a businesswoman, and she's, started from the bottom. Now she's, and Right. And you have to do that. Like, to be a businesswoman and to manage people and have an empire, and it's like the Steve Jobs thing. Everybody talks about, like, obviously he was hella successful, but like what an asshole he was. Yeah, you're not everybody is gonna like you on their way to the top, and like having to make these really difficult choices and build these huge ginormous businesses. That's gonna happen. But then of course, oh, she's such a bitch, or
Right.
she's so demanding, and da da da. I'm
But
like,
then here's what happens.
I met her a couple times and she was so
Oh,
nice.
okay. Well, say, but here's what happens too, right? So it's like, I do this. I'm very guilty of this because there is that stigma of being assertive and being a woman. And look, even as a woman, when another woman is assertive with me, I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah. That's a great point,
You know what I
actually,
mean?
because then with each other.
Exactly. So it's not just a masculine thing, right? Like, it's not being like, shame on you,
Yep.
men. We're all taught this as a whole. So again, when you see a woman who is demanding, who knows exactly what she wants, who's blunt, who gets to the point, you're like, she's a little abrasive. And to compensate for
Right.
that, like if I know what I want and I'm trying to get it from a boss or a colleague or a guy in general, and look, I do this with my female and male friends, right? But I apologize before asking for what I want. Why am I apologizing? Right? Like my dude would get on me
Yeah.
about that all the time. Why are you so sorry? Do you know that sorry loses its value when you say it all the time? Oh, like that gave me food for thought. But the point is it's always and look, approach is everything. Man, woman, whatever, with the whole
True.
like Steve Jobs is an asshole. Maybe he knew what he wanted. Maybe he could have said it kinder. So let's not take kindness
Correct.
out of the factor. Do be kind. But it's that like,
That's right.
could you please, do you mind? And it's like something like that makes you comfortable, or that's like a standard. There's nothing wrong with asking for that. Can I have equal pay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Like, is it okay if I get what I'm worth? Why are we so apologetic for that stuff? You know? Anyway.
Yeah. There's so many layers to it. So what would you say to anybody listening who has been in these kind of shoes, or who hasn't read these books and needs a little bit of help in this?
I love that, first of all. Because Val and I were talking and we're like, let's make sure, because, obviously Matt is not with us. He'll be back, by the way. He'll be back. He's traveling the world. But
I know. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we also solutionize and it's not like the whole entire podcast. So
yeah.
The things that have helped me and that I would love to see other people do, encourage your sisters. When I say sisters, just your other women, that let's not compete with each other. Life and the world is hard enough as it is. Like, let's support each other, first of all. And second of all, I just took this Mind Valley class, and it's called Wild Woman Within. And it's actually using breath work. So going back to Paul, who had talked to us the other week about tantric energy, she teaches tantric, I don't know, breath work, but it's like literally doing certain things to harness like energy and power and giving power to your parts, your pee, and owning them and seeing it as something beautiful, seeing you as something beautiful. So I just encourage people to teach friends, young people, whatever, like as a woman, like it's okay to want what you want. It's okay to walk away, like really loving each other and teaching ourselves how to love each other, And I am so guilty of not. I mean, I love certain aspects about me internally and who I am as a person and my character. I have a lot of issues with my physical appearance that I don't necessarily love, which is why I have fabulous friends like Val who can see me when I look like absolute shit and be like, you look nice.
And exactly, because she's never looked like absolute shit. That's
but it's that stuff.
Moving on.
No, but it's that stuff. It's recognizing I've been accepting less than what I'm worth, but what is my worth? How do I connect with myself and find that worth? And usually it is, I'm such a class taker. So it's finding somebody else who's mastered that art and asking them for help is, I don't know, the best advice I can
And
give.
what were the books that you read?
Scrappy Little Nobody, which is Anna Kendrick's book, and it talks about just herself. And then Anna Faris's book, which is called Unqualified. and Constance Wu, which is called Making a Scene. And literally all these books are about that. Like Constance Wu's book is very much like the trauma she's been through in her life. You're like, oh shit. And even on set, when she was filming Fresh Off the Boat, one of her producers, because it was her first TV show, she did theater before that, coercing her to do things that she didn't want to do, but she just felt like, well, it's my job and I don't want to piss this producer off, because if I piss this producer off, I'm affecting now a whole cast of people, a whole crew of people that could lose their jobs because I'm throwing a fit because I don't like the way that this person is making me do all these things or putting his hand on my knee. And and we feel like as women, when stuff like that happens, and maybe men too, like if you have a woman who's pursuing you and it's uncomfortable, it's like you joke because you don't want to get into hot water and piss somebody off. So you're like, that's not okay. And it's like, yeah, why can't I just be like, that's not okay? And you not lash out at me.
Yeah.
So I could go on forever, baby, to quote Home Alone.
I love it. So no, it's great. I think those are great recommendations on why men love bitches.
Yeah.
Not a memoir.
I think
that's kind of a funny one. It's old.
Yeah. Oh, and then I again, go into that Gina Davis organization and looking for the documentary. You'll be like, what? When you just realize certain things. And I think, I
want to see that.
Huh? What?
I want to see it.
Yeah, so good. It's on Netflix. Hopefully it's still on Netflix. But it's like, I think awareness is the first step of anything. Like really being aware of how you're conditioned, how other people are conditioned, and then going from there. Honestly.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you for suggesting this topic. I think you're right. We don't talk about it. It's very taboo.
Periods. I know Val's trying to wrap this up, by the way. I can tell Val's trying to wrap it up, but I'm like, hold on, I have more. But I'm gonna
I'm trying to wrap it up because it says we're at 45 minutes and we told ourselves we gotta rein it in. And so I mean you tell us one more little nugget.
Okay, girl. I'm gonna rein it in. Last topic, ladies. Don't be ashamed of your period. I know that's so weird, but it's like, talk about it. Do you know that there's certain countries that women are deprived like feminine products because it's like, ooh, nasty, you nasty, It's not nasty, it's natural, and it's a miracle. I've never thought of it like that until I just took this recent class, and I was like, oh, like just be grateful. It's a miracle. Like your body can do some shit that other people's bodies can't do. So be grateful. Anyways, that's all. Don't be embarrassed. Go buy those tampons, girl. I'm gonna walk around the store with them up above my head. Anyways, that's all. Okay.
I know. I love it. Thank you for listening. As always, you guys, we love our community. We appreciate your support, and we're grateful that you're listening and you're watching.
Power of the P. Okay, bye everybody.